Language and National Identity by Nirmal Verma. To say anything about language is like chasing your own shadow. It may be more appropriate to assert that we are its shadow, we create our reality with it, and define ourselves through it and with it. Man can never be defined fully, not only because there is something in him that is still unknown, but also because he has not yet completed the process of recreating and reinventing himself. We are unable to accept man as a finished product. There has been much speculation about the manner in which he may fulfill himself, the direction this fulfillment may take, and the form it will acquire, and how he will project his innate potentialities in the future. Various scholars, from Nietzsche to Sri Aurobindo, have made predictions about his innate capacity. The question is not how correct or relevant these prophecies are. The point to consider is that man, being what he is, all these predictions are born of a painful disillusionment with what he is. Man is the only creature between a god and animal who finds himself in a strange situation of being incomplete. He lacks the self, the involvement of the animal, and does not possess the fullness of God, even in the historical framework. Man appears as a figure half drawn and incomplete, as if thwarted in the process of acquiring a proper shape. Its colors lackluster and faded. The full figure of man, if there is such a thing, is not without but buried deep within him. In order to realize himself, man digs within and raises himself from his own grave. Language is the most efficient weapon of self discovery or self analysis. It is that invisible part of the human body which gives man an inner sight. The link between language and self awareness puts man in a separate and unique category from all other living beings. This consciousness of his own incompleteness makes him yearn for fulfillment. Thus, the determination to attain it is also intrinsic to its realization. No culture is limited only to its reality, but also reveals itself through its dreams, and that is why language plays a very significant role in the shaping of culture. The vision of a culture is largely formed by the memories that it carries. If the word is symbolic of a dream, it also has the hint of the memory. No language, as long as it is, can therefore be a dead language. If all else of our past were to perish, even then the languages would remain through which the members of a society communicate with each other. And though living in the present, are unconsciously linked with their past, and the past flows imperceptibly through the present. Language in this manner plays a double role. Besides being the vehicle of communication, it is also the carrier of a culture. Historical upheavals may impair the culture of a country, but its truth and cohesion persist in its language. Each language, as it develops, establishes a special constitution and structure which, once having come into existence, influences the inner responses of man. Both processes go on simultaneously. Language determines the identity and the special characteristics of a race. and the collective experiences, memories, and traditions of a group mold the unique character of its language. This is in a way a circular process in which the question of what comes first remains unanswered, like in the case of the chicken and the egg. What is clear is that there is nothing like one language. There are numerous languages, and the various races, groups, and nationalities are nurtured by their languages. Languages are their residing places. In this sense, each language, in its ultimate form, is a mother tongue. Man is drawn to the world for the first time through language, opens up and is linked to it. It is not only a part of the external day to day activity of a group, a part of its superstructure, although it has a specific role in the achievements of its worldly goals. It also decides its inner nature, impulses, and sensibility, and demonstrates its unique spiritual character. One language differs from another not only in its sounds, intonations, and the meaning its words convey, but also in its worldview. Each language looks at the universe in a particular manner, tests it, and translates it into own meanings in a special way. The connotations that the Rig Veda conveys through the symbols of Surya, Agni, Dhenu, and space to the Indian mind, and the images of certain divine forces that it conjures up, are distinct in their import from the Greek and Latin symbols, different because their mythical sources and references are distinct and separate. Human languages are born in the same world, but each has its own incomparable quality, manifest and well defined. When we translate from one language into another, it is not just a translation of the words alone, but the transformation of a whole universe with all its baggage into another language. Each language has its own history and also a geography of its own. We cannot separate its symbolic character from its natural environment. If symbols like Ganga, Saraswati, Himalaya, ocean, and space are deeply entrenched in the Indian languages and profoundly influence our sensibilities, it is not because they are the physical attributes of our natural habitat, but because they are the carriers of our legendary memories, which at one time linked Indians to their deities and lent a divine grace to their material existence. The meaning of the word Bharat was its essence, a region surrounded by divinity. The reason why Bharat was called Devbhumi, the land of gods, and Sanskrit was Dev Bhasha, the language of gods, was to underline the eternal and sacred relation between the land and the language. Language, with all its metaphors and imagery, played a significant role in kindling the national awakening in the 19th century in India. The novels of Bankim Babu, Shri Aurobindo's philosophy, Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, and Kumar Swami's thoughts on art are ample evidence of this. When a handful of historians call the concept of Indian nationalism a mere construct using the vocabulary of French philosophers, where the very concept of Bharat is labeled an imaginary product or invented construct of some nationalist historians, then the linguistic and cultural foundations of Indian nationalism are totally overlooked, which is a living example of colonial forgetfulness. In India, the desire to seek freedom was inspired not only by political factors, but there was also the desire to retrieve our cultural identity from the darkness of oblivion. From this point of view, it was different from the aggressive, egoistic sentiments that lay behind the modern nation states, which came into existence only after the various races, nationalities, and folk languages were annihilated. That the Indian national awareness was free of a self involved rigidity right from its inception was because it had not been forcibly imposed from above, but its roots lay deep in the Indian cultural traditions. The various dialects and languages of India, despite their distinctiveness, shared an inherent unity, and this could never obstruct the growth of national unification. Their diversity gave them an openness. They lived in the same house, though the windows were different. Their casements opened on a full panorama of the interrelationship of Indian cultures. It is often said that we seek ourselves in our languages. Perhaps it happens in some cultures that they tell their stories in the language of dreams. The reality of the national identity of Bharat is perhaps reflected in such dream languages. Thank you.